fierce political debate about how the grants and loans of Tekes should be directed, and we will go more into that. But so let's first hear what are the future trends if you're thinking about the next 10 years. You're most welcome.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Ulla Hiekkanen is my name and I come from Tekes. Daniel was talking about the future, 2020. He was also talking about smart cities, smart ecosystems. What we need is smart companies, smart entrepreneurs, and 2020 is only 9 years ahead. We are in a great economical turbulence at the moment, and everybody who reads the newspapers in the morning or watches the television news in the evening knows that nothing will be the same as it is today. How can Finland come out of this turbulence so that we still have a sustainable economy? We have companies which thrive in the global market. We have an environment which is good to live in. We still have a good education system for our children. It needs good entrepreneurs. It needs good companies. And the software industry and ICT is one of the strong areas in Finland. And this is one of the areas where we really want to see growth in the future. So the growth is in your hands, ladies and gentlemen. What we can do in the public and private support is only the support. The drivers are you. And the public money is not the answer. Neither is the private money, but it's what you do with it. Okay. This is a growth forum, so let's start by looking at what we mean by growth. Finland is a very small economy. The market is outside. Do you sometimes feel like a fish in a small bowl? Do you want to go outside? Expand your market a little bit? If you go outside, you need to be able to compete with the global brands. What's your strategy and what's your muscle so that you're competitive in the global arenas? Can you multiply your concept fast? And can you adapt it like the little city rabbits into different areas, in the cities, rural areas, third world countries, and so forth? And are you one of these ducklings who will become swan in one day? Okay, this is a business seminar, so let's move on into the business focus. So let's look into the future in 2020, like David did in his presentation. We took our crystal ball and we imagined what could the future be for some of you here in the audience. What if you could get some of the big guys in the industry in your board of directors? What kind of financing would you be able to raise? What kind of doors would he open to your business and your customers, to your networks, and so forth? Think about it. Are you able to expand your business in the developing countries, but also in Asia and in the developed world? Are you able to utilize the resources and the skilled people in various parts of the country? What about financing your growth and global expansion by entering the stock market in one of the big cities? And last but not least, what do you need to do to get 1 million customers? How many units will you need to sell to make 100 million turnover? How many salespeople do you need to be able to sell that amount? And what other sales channels you need? Web store, so forth, and resales. So if this is something that your future could look like, what do we need to do to make this happen? Tekes has been heavily criticized in the past year, and we have taken that criticism very seriously. And in March this year, we have revised our strategy. And based on the strategy, we will make some changes to our funding, and we are also changing the way how Tekes operates. And in my presentation, I have some of these things explained to you, the directions where we are going. But basically, public funding and Tekes funding among those is only one way to finance your development and your growth. In different stages of your company growth, there are different sources which are generally used. In the starting phase, it's usually the founders themselves, their friends and their family. And Tekes is one of those public sources which can join you fairly early in a stage where the angel investors and public or private capital investors, they are not yet ready to invest in your company. They need a little bit more proof. Banks, of course, is a traditional way of raising capital for the companies, and I'm sure that every company in Finland has one or two favorite banks that they work with. So, public money should be an exception. The best thing to do in a company is to grow with your own turnover, your own sales, and with your own money. But in Finland, we don't have too many angels, and we don't have the tradition of wealthy families investing back into startups and new businesses. So, to cover this gap, we need to have an operation like Tekes, at least for some years to come. Public capital investors include our sister organizations like Finnvera, Teollisuussijoitus, and they complement this picture a little bit, but their role is also a little bit later in the foundation roadmap. Okay, Tekes funding for 2012 has been cut, and we will have something like 554 million in our use next year. What we've also done in our strategy, we've selected the most important areas where we should focus on in the coming years. And this is here on the small and young and SME side. So, in future, 2/3 of our funding, which is something like 349 million next year, will be allocated to companies, and 35% out of that to young and startup companies which are younger than 6 years old. And we will focus in developing our service model and business model and knowledge in that area. And some of you probably noticed that we are also recruiting a new sector director to drive and develop that area of services in the future. 183 applicants, so I'm sure we will find one person who's capable for the job. Okay, what will we do with that money, and what will you do with that money? The basic Tekes research, development and innovation funding can be used for any innovative project at any stage of your company life. But then we have some specific elements, and the new innovative company funding is probably the most familiar to many of you. So in startup and in early growth phase, it's possible that the company enters into a financing program which is in 3 stages, and depending on your growth, then you're able to raise up to 1 million of Tekes money to finance the international growth of an innovative company. That new funding is often merged and included in the work with a Vigo accelerator. And this is probably an area that has received the less criticism in the past year. And there are at the moment 6 accelerators where experienced business people, experienced entrepreneurs are coaching and mentoring other new startups. And this is where we are combining their experience and knowledge with the private money. Tekes programs and SHOCs, strategisten huippuosaamisen keskittymät, is a very beneficial program and joint networking and common learning for companies which are a little bit further in their growth path. For software and ICT industry, we still have a couple of very specific modules. The Nokia Technopolis Innovation Mill. This is how to spin startups based on the Nokia patents. And we recently launched a Tempo, which is a funding program for seed stage businesses. These are both targeted in the early phase and young companies, and then later in the growth we have a global access program together with the Ulla Anderson Business School, where, for instance, at the moment there are 11 Finnish companies who work together with really smart MBA students to do an international business plan and international growth plan. We also launched and piloted last year a new service called Kasvuväylä Growth Track. And the objective of this growth track is to make public services easy for you. So Finnvera, Tekes, Ely and Finpro Tesi services with one contact person. CEF Solutions is one of the companies which was in the pilot group for Kasvuväylä, and Jaakko Alasaarela told me that this is the first and best evolution that has come from public services since he has been in the business. So for all these, Nokia, Innovation Mill, Tempo, Global Access Program and Growth Track, there are relevant web pages where you can find information if you're interested. Besides the Tekes funding, we of course have all the programs in international, so especially Eurostars and Eranet are available for those who want to do joint programs early on or later in the stage. Okay, what are we in Tekes looking for when you apply for funding? It very much depends on the stage. So we have also learned that the one patent doesn't fit all. So when a startup company approaches us, the discussion will be very much about the idea and the team. In the prototyping phase, we talk about your pilots, we talk about your plans, and then when you already have launched your first product, then we are interested to hear what's the feedback from your customers. And then when you already have some business, then show me the proof. Show me your balance sheet, show me your numbers, and then we go from there. This is something totally new that we start introducing now. We realized that having an innovative product and having an innovative idea is not enough. But how you bring that to the market and what's your process of getting there is equally as important. And we don't pretend to have the answers. We are not the smart guys who know every business, but we are going to discuss these questions with you. And even though we don't end up financing your project or your growth, we think that discussing some of these topics is of value. So when you're entering a growth phase on when you're developing a new product or concept, whether you succeed in it depends on your skills and competencies and present capabilities. So you have to have the capabilities in place in order to manage the project successfully. And some of the elements in the capabilities are management's international expertise. So if the managers of the startup or the company have experience in operating in a global market, that's always a great asset. Then we look for the growth desire and the credibility of plans. And that credibility of plans includes your financing situation. So Tekes never funds your programs 100%, so typically you have to have that 50% or 40% of the project funded by other sources or revenues. How have you organized your business growth or the development of your project? Do you have the skilled people and skilled resources available, and how are they involved in your program? And your customer base. So do you already have some experience what sells in the market and what works in the market? So based on how deep your roots are, then it also determines the scale, how big branches you can build at that time. And the branches here are the business opportunities and the growth opportunities. So how much you actually use partnerships and networks in your program and also in your sales strategy? What's the market potential for your new innovative product or solution? And how does that reflect to your product portfolio and the expansion potential of your product portfolio? How much do you involve customers and potential customers in the initial development, so to make sure that what you develop is actually sellable and acceptable in the market? And last but not least, what you're doing, is that radically new in the industry? Is it changing the sector? Is it changing the market? Because that's what we're looking for. In the future, when you meet with Tekes people, they will be asking these types of questions from you, and this will be part of your meetings. These are based on some international research and some benchmark studies, so we hope that will be beneficial to everyone during our meetings. So, as a public funding organization, what are we looking for in the future? We are looking for innovative projects to fund, but the innovative projects which are combined with idea of competitiveness, what makes that unique in the market? The skills and capabilities in the company to complete the project on time and on schedule, the ability to grow international business, the ambition to be a forerunner in your market, a convincing team who can do it, and last but not least, this burning passion for entrepreneurship. Thank you very much.